Well, that was back in January, and now the online safety bill is set to come into effect. With me now here in the studio is cybersecurity expert Adenike Cosgrove, but on the line from Westminster is Paul Scully, MP, who is the Minister for Tech and the Digital Economy. Thank you for joining us, Minister. And I'd like to start with you. Very simply, I think, here on the programme at Rip Off Britain, we've been covering all sorts of scams online that have had a devastating effect on people for several years now. And it was in, May of 2021 when this bill first came into Parliament. What has taken you so long to get it going?
Look, what we've had to do, there's been a lot of issues around how you keep children in particular safe online, but also protect free speech, because this is wider than frauds and scams. But obviously, frauds and scams is a really crucial part of the bill. And so what we've had to do is had a big rethink about the bill last summer. But here we are now, that we are able to get this through and start to put into action exactly the protections that you've been looking for and calling for so many years, making sure if it's illegal offline, it's illegal online, and the social media platforms and other platforms have to act.
Well, I think we're all delighted that actually the government is going to be doing something about this at last. So tell us what's in the bill.
So essentially, as I say, if it's on illegal offline, it's illegal online. So you've got lots of different types of platforms. So what they're going to have to do, each platform is going to have to do a risk assessment to see how best they can tackle by removing illegal adverts, by search results that lead you to scam sites, these kind of things. They will have to demonstrate exactly how they are having a bespoke solution. Otherwise, they can be charged a lot of money, up to 10% of their global turnover, if they don't act.
Can I just stop you there for a minute, Minister, because I'm a bit confused. You're telling me about what you expect other people to do. What I'm asking you is what the bill has got in it that makes it now illegal for many of these things to happen. That's what I would like to know.
Sorry, no, but it's making it, putting the impetus onto the social media platforms and other internet platforms to actually to be able to remove these scams from their sites, because they are the ones that are actually acting in too many cases as a conduit for these scam sites. So we're expecting platforms to actually adhere to their own terms and conditions, to have a clear reporting mechanism that people can actually raise this and see the results of what they're raising. And we, through Ofcom, will clearly need to see a demonstration that these platforms are actually acting to make what is illegal just disappear from their site.
I mean, presumably this is going to come up in the King's speech on November the 7th. Does that mean that all this will click into action on November the 8th?
No, it's not coming in the King's speech, because actually the legislation will have already gone through by that point. It will take us a little bit of time to go through some of the public consultations and things to actually operationalise this. But what we're saying to companies, you don't have to wait for that. You can act. You know exactly what's expected of you. You can act literally as of today.
I'm going to bring Nikki in on this. Nikki, you just heard what the Minister had to say. Are you satisfied with this? Do you think this is actually going to do the job?
Well, I think it's commendable that we actually have this bill to start. I think it's commendable that we're trying to protect children and consumers online, especially as they're engaging in this ever-connected world. I think one of the things that's in the bill that's really inspiring is that transparency, the fact that consumers have that ability to understand what data is actually being collected, what data they own is being collected, how that data is being processed, what it's being used for, and ultimately giving people the right to delete that information or request the deletion of that information. But I think what we're starting to get into here is the ambiguity in the bill, because some of the language in it is reasonable measures. You need to implement, or these social online platforms need to implement reasonable measures to protect the data that they collect and protect children and consumers on these online platforms. Different companies can interpret reasonable in different ways.
Yeah.
They can implement whatever control they feel is adequate, and they can document that. And it's in those gaps of ambiguity that we typically see criminals try to slip into to go undetected.
I think that's important, and I think that there are a few ambiguities in the bill. We don't have time, unfortunately, to go into them. But the point that Nikki makes is about the way in which scammers are able to work their way around things. If this bill now comes in and becomes law, Is it going to be flexible enough to keep in pace with what the scammers themselves are doing? Because usually they are 2 steps ahead of everybody else. What are you going to do to ensure that if the scammers come up with some new scheme, that the bill, the act, is actually going to be able to protect consumers from what's likely to happen in the future?
Really good question. And that's exactly why the wording is as it is, because it's not technology specific. It's not trying to go down one route, because it will be out of date otherwise. And you can't tackle search engines like Google in the same way you can Amazon Marketplace or adverts on Instagram, paid adverts on Instagram, for example. So each platform needs a bespoke solution, and it'll be Ofcom that now it's getting royal assent to put this legislation in place. Ofcom will issue the guidelines to make it really much more specific for each company to understand what is expected of them legally. As I say, if they don't adhere to that, there will be quite swinging fines on their global turnover.
Well, and you are saying, I know, that you want this to make Britain the safest place in the world. It's a big, big statement to make. Let's hope that the bill actually enables you to do that. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Minister. And Nikki, thank you too.
Thanks for having me.